Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. Typically, I'm sending something out on Wednesday, and Jake's doing something on Friday. This week, Jake is taking a well earned week of vacation, hanging out with his family, and so I'm going to split the difference and come to you on Thursday instead of the Wednesday Friday routine. I did want to just share some things. I'm sure, like you, I'm seeing the news. I'm confronted daily with the situation in the world around us, political tensions, racial tensions, fear of infection, the resurgence of COVID to the south of us, and it's a very very unstable and difficult time. And one of the things that during our prayer time today at the church that just kept coming back to me is the world is just filled with outrage. People are angry, angry at whoever is on the other side, the opposite side of them. And I wrote a blog post today. You can check it out. I'll put the link here below about our need to stop moving from either or, from us versus them, and to realize that we have to somehow begin to see things a bit differently. We have to somehow live in the tensions instead of so quickly categorizing people into uh, categories that don't necessarily do justice to the fullness of who people are. And one of the things that's really important for us to do that is to remember who we are. I came across a quote in a book, The Meaning of Marriage by Tim Keller. And he says this. I love this quote. He says, "The gospel is this: we are more sinful and flawed in ourselves than we ever dared believe. Yet at the very same time, we are more loved and accepted in Jesus Christ than we ever dared hope." Let me just say that again. The gospel is this: we are more sinful and flawed in ourselves than we ever dared to believe. And yet at the same time, we are more loved and accepted in Jesus Christ than we ever dared hope. See, that's one of the things I think that's going to get us over this hurdle of us and them. It's going to bring reconciliation, is first to realize that right inside of me is the barrier. I am more sinful and flawed and broken than I can even conceive. And the reason I can admit that is because of the cross and the resurrection. I am in this very safe place where I am more loved and accepted in Jesus than I ever dared hope. I love that picture, and it's one of those things that when I can begin to believe that about myself, I can be honest about my failures. And I don't have to be right all the time. I don't have to present myself as perfect, because I can let the flaws be there because I'm protected and loved in the grace of God. And when we can do that for ourselves, we begin to do that for other people as well. We begin to realize that people aren't easily categorized. There's not good people and bad people. There's not broken people and whole people. We are all more broken and flawed than we ever dared to believe. And yet, because of the gospel, we are also more loved and accepted in Jesus than we ever dared hope. And if that's true of me, that's true of you. If that's true of Republicans, that's true of Democrats. If that's true of people on either side of racial debates in the U.S., that they are both, on both sides, more broken than they ever imagined, more broken than they can even conceive. And yet, at the same time, they are more loved and accepted by the grace of God than they could ever dream possible. See, when I can see that about myself, I can begin to offer that to other people. I love 1 John. We're going to be coming up to that some during the summer. 1 John 4:19, a lot of you know this verse. We love. Why? Because he first loved us. That's the point. One of the things that will help me transcend this anger and outrage in the culture is, first of all, to realize God's love for me. I love because he first loved me. But just a few verses before that is what John Corbett usually calls one of my favorite verses. 1 John 4:16, we have come to know and rely on the love that God has for us. First of all, we come to know it. We come to know that we are loved by God as we are broken. And then we rely on it. We realize I don't need approval from out there. I don't need to categorize people into camps. I can rely on the love God has for me to be the love God has for them. And it brings a way of healing and reconciliation in a way that the world just does not even understand. See, the world will say, you've got to be a certain way to be loved. You've got to embrace a certain philosophy or ideology. You've got to do this our way for us to like you. And the gospel says, you know what? God loves all people where they are, and he calls them into being something better. So as you live this week in this world of turmoil, first of all, I want you to know the love of God. I want you to know that it's for you, and to be able to admit all your brokenness, and to know that God loves you in spite of that he's drawn to you, that he died for every single thing you see there, and a bunch of things that you don't even see yet. He already knew about, and he loves. And as you know the love of God, then you can begin to rely on it in your relationships with others. They don't have to meet a certain standard before you can love them. They don't have to do certain things. They don't have to believe a certain way. You can just love them because God loves them. That's my hope and my prayer for you this week, that you can know and rely on the love of God. Now we're looking forward to seeing the blue team here on Sunday. It is communion, so if you're at home, prepare the elements for communion. Here we will do it in a very safe, socially distant way. But we look forward to seeing you and celebrating together. Love you guys, and looking forward to seeing what happens in the future as we know and rely on the love of God. Thanks.